CCAP Caucus, which is taking place in place of a formal luncheon. And this is a year of lots of firsts in operating the partnership and operating the CCAP program, and including, actually, I even got dressed up for this presentation. I haven't had a tie on since March 12th. So I have had but do want to welcome you to the session today. As we go through, we want to cover some things, bring you up to date, what's happening with CCAP, and to meet the CCAP commissioners. We do have 2 commissioners that are retiring, and I'd like to give them a chance to speak if they are on the line. I got a text from Tom Tenero. Did you get on, Tom? Yes, not. He was having an issue getting on. Gerald Ness from Oregon, did you get on? All right. Well, Tom did send me a message to read to everybody, though. So let me go ahead and read that for you. He wanted Tom Tenero is from California and is the chair of the commission. And he wanted to say, it's been a privilege to serve the network and CCAPs since our inaugural year. In my time on the partnership board and the commission, I was pleased to see an expansion of interest in CCAP. With the end of my term on the commission, I still remain what is good and right about our purpose, including the vision, values, and philosophy. May you all stay in the fight and bring others with you. Best always, Tom. So you get a chance to drop Tom a note and wish him well. But he's served the commission, like I said, as a commissioner and as a chair. So I want to introduce the rest of our commission. And I guess I don't know if we're going to be able to show their faces or not, but we'll see. Jeannie Chafin from Virginia. Janice Deku from Maine. Renee Charles Mccann from Missouri. Leah Pauletti from Minnesota. Tawny Staldemar from Kansas. Delitzo Solomon from Illinois. And finally, our newest commissioner came on in the beginning of the year, Tiffany Keemy from Iowa. Tiffany, we'll give you a chance to say words about what it is to be a new commissioner. Tiffany?
Thank you. Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Paul. I just want to say how honored I am to be a part of the CCAP Commission among such fabulous folks from our Community Action Network, and just thrilled to have the opportunity to continue to learn and grow all things CCAP, to continue to have the opportunity to support community action professionals and future community action professionals in the network, and just be a part of this fabulous commission. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And as you know, most of you should know, we instituted a practice of taking applications for new commissioners this year. We've had a round of applications. We've not had the selections made by the board chair yet, but that should happen this week, we hope. But that we will have that application posted on the partnership website, so that it's open throughout the year for potential new CCAPs if you were interested to apply to become a CCAP. So when a commissioner's spot work with. So, all right, we'll move on, and I'm going to turn this next section over to Jim for an update. Jim?
You can
CCAP
unmute,
Program
Jim.
Administrator. Sorry, I'm still muted. Hey everyone, Jim LaPresti, glad to have the chance to meet with you virtually. In all my years as CCAP Program Administrator, I've never so much missed the chance of actually sitting together with you with our annual luncheon. I miss you all. But let's do this today in the best way that we can. Let me tell you a little bit, with Paul's invitation now, about the status of CCAP with a special emphasis on our candidates. At this point, over 1,200 people have become CCAP since the program began in 1993. And there are well over 750 are CCAPs today. Later this week at our virtual awards event, you will meet the 63 new CCAPs who were welcomed into the group this year by the CCAP Commission. And so far, we've had 89 CCAPs who've recertified in this year, and we'll talk a little bit about them and show you their names a little bit later this morning in this conversation. To talk a little bit more specifically about our CCAP candidates this year, currently our CCAP active candidates come from 33 states. This displays for you the kinds of positions that those candidates have in their agencies. And you can see that the majority of the persons who are CCAP candidates are in administrative positions. That usually means persons who are in agency-wide positions of responsibility. That's not a program director, but might be, for example, the person who manages a particular office or site or county, or it might be someone who's a quality assurance or quality improvement manager or agency planner. Program directors and CEOs round up the next largest group of who our candidates are. That total currently is at 187. This is the time of year, though, when our candidacy is at its ebb. That number will grow significantly over the next few months. Certainly to a couple hundred, 250, something like that. But this is the point at which we have candidates from previous years who did not finish the process and who remain candidates. So that's the status of our candidates for the current year in the CCAP program. So true, the community action. It may be that COVID threw us a curve, but it didn't stop us. We're a nimble group of people, and we know how to adapt. And that includes incredible candidates who went through this year in the midst of all that, and then who took the exam and will be welcomed as CCAPs on this Thursday. It's been an amazing year, difficult, with all kinds of challenges, but we met them. Some of the changes that we had to institute for this year, well, the most important change that had to be instituted this year was the different way in which the CCAP program was to be administered. The CCAP Commission met a couple of times during the spring, quote, semester of this year to address the challenges of the pandemic and how it would impact the way in which we normally would go through the process of testing our candidates. It was pretty quickly decided that it was highly inappropriate to have candidates travel to sites around the country to log on to the CCAP exam on the partnership's Moodle webpage. At the same time, it was understood that we need to have some kind of process that meets the usual standards for proctoring an exam of this importance. So the exam committee got to work, and we established a new process for this year, 2020, in the establishment of 11 virtual CCAP exam sites. Those virtual sites were set up either on GoToMeeting, or Zoom. We learned that for lots of understandable reasons, especially among public agencies, the preference was to use the GoToMeeting platform. But most of us have had a lot of experience this year in using Zoom. Those particular 11 virtual sites functioned as lobbies to enter the exam. Candidates logged on to that site and they rehearsed this with host proctors in advance of the actual exam day. There were 11 of them. And there were a maximum of 9 candidates in each of those virtual exam sites or lobbies. And while they had themselves on that meeting site, they opened a second window to enter the CCAP exam on the Moodle page, which is the Community Action Academy's page on the partnerships website, to begin the exam while the proctors observed them. There's a lot of literature out now about what's the best way to do exam proctoring. We developed a way that met the realities of our community. And during the course of that, we had our candidates take the CCAP exam. It was a rather intense process getting ready for this, making the changes, and revising the regulations to meet those new changes. But we had incredibly generous and dedicated volunteers who functioned as virtual site host proctors. 2 of our members of the CCAP exam committee, the chair of the committee and Commissioner Tony Stottlemyre, and exam committee member Mary Beth Schneber-Remrev, served also as host proctors. Mary Beth was hoping to join us at this meeting to give some reflection of what it was like to be in that role and function. Mary Beth, are you able to share those reflections with us, and have you been able to log on to the meeting?
Hey, Jim, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Wonderful. Hi, everyone. It's so good to be with you this morning. Excited to tell you a little bit about the experience on the exam committee this year. This was certainly a unique year for the exam committee, as it has been for all of community action. Just as we're seeing in our broader network, I do want to mention that this was a year of transition for the exam committee, as our chair, the former chair and dear friend Geraldine Ness transitioned off our committee, and we welcomed our newest member, the amazing Renee Dismute. When the CCAP exam committee convened in late January, we just didn't know the challenges then that would face our country. And the committee, we spent our time together in late January developing an exam that would ensure that those who truly understand the concepts essential to community action would earn the honor of becoming a CCAP. And in a different time and in a different world, we incorporated essential concepts, including racial equity and Roma Next Gen concepts. Although those are always pertinent topics, we did not realize then just how pertinent they would be to our network as the world rapidly evolved and changed. So to respond to that new normal and to protect the safety of our candidates, as Jim mentioned, we moved to our first digitally equally proctored exam. Moving the digital exam last year enabled us to make that pivot successfully and rapidly. So the exam wants to applaud the resilience and flexibility of our network. And of course, say congratulations to all of the newest CCAPs who, in spite of it all, found a way to join us. We also want to say thank you to the proctors, as Jim mentioned, who offered up their time and expertise, and really importantly, their virtual platforms to make this tremendous task possible. The grit and determination shown by this CCAP class is like none other that we've ever experienced. You know, I know personally I spent a lot of time one-on-one with candidates, getting folks used to or ready for the exam. There's always pre-exam jitters. I think that was certainly heightened this year, but it looks like we all came out the other side, didn't we? So as we look forward to the new year and a new CCAP class, the exam committee and the commission, of course, will be reflecting on what was learned from this experience and review our practices and processes to ensure we're continuously improving and innovating and ultimately just responding to the needs of our network. So again, on behalf of the exam committee, congratulations to the newest CCAPs, and thank you to all of the amazing volunteers who made that possible. Jim, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Mary Beth. And I want to remind persons as you come on to the meeting to please make sure you enter with your self muted so that we don't get feedback from your computer through your mic. We're going to now take a look at some other developments in CCAP that were being prepared for the new CCAP 2021 program year. There are three different items that we're going to look at. First, very briefly, a revision of the candidate data form. That means only the addition of one new program from the University of Iowa. It's Family Development Specialist Program. Those of you who have gone through the process and fill out the candidate data form know that how in section 2.4 of the candidate data form, certain comprehensive training programs are recognized for advanced standing, so to speak, and provide additional points towards your qualification. In that section 2.4 this year, the Certification Commission added that program, the Family Development Specialist Program, for accredited for those 30 points. That will appear on the new candidate data form that will be posted immediately after the convention. I'll say a little bit more about posted revisions in a few moments. The next item to be mentioned is the revision of the executive skills portfolio. A rather comprehensive examination of the executive skills portfolio was undertaken this year by a committee that involved Chair Jeannie Chafin and Commissioner Charles Mccann, along with three CCAPs who have been frequent contributors as evaluators of executive skills portfolio. That is Meredith Collins, Stephanie Kasperchak, and Susan Harding. That committee of 5 persons did a careful look, particularly at what was considered the most vulnerable part of the executive skills portfolio, which is the section on traditional management functions and on committee action leadership. You'll recall that those are the sections in the body of knowledge, item bank numbers 2 and, excuse me, the items that are addressed in essays number 1 and 2 on the executive skills portfolio. Well, the first thing that committee did was to correlate between the executive skills portfolio and the body of knowledge outline. And looking at the body, because it was a complex interaction between the two, that if to revise the executive skills portfolio meant to have some revisions to the body of knowledge outline at the same time. On your screen, you see now what the 2020 body of knowledge outline under section D, the organizational leadership, what it looks like. And now you see the revision that will be posted on the partnership's website after the convention. This is one of the revisions on the body of knowledge outline done to correlate to the revision of the executive skills portfolio. Now calling section D leadership and community action, and calling it not overview but background, and not management versus leadership but the relationship of management to leadership. And then focusing particularly on leadership in skills and situations This is meant to correlate especially to the portfolio where candidates are actually expected to talk about an actual a program or some kind of proposal or activity where they were a leader, so that there had to be specific skills related to that program or that approach or that new offering at the agency. And that is a particular situation in which leadership needed to be demonstrated. So the executive skills portfolio focused specifically then on those particular aspects of leadership. I want to move on then. The parts, we're not going to examine the whole body of knowledge outline in detail in revisions. There are a few others. They're not as extensive as that revision that I just showed you. Second then, correlating to that work with the body of knowledge outline was a revision of the executive skills portfolio focusing, again, as mentioned before, on expectations for the essays that candidates write on management and the essays that are written on leadership. The essay that is written on management now, the guidance document given to candidates, is more careful about targeting how to talk about management, where to focus, and what to look at, and how to connect it to the portfolio itself. It doesn't add new specific material, it just makes the material more focused. And then there's an addition on leadership that correlates to what you just saw in the previous slide on the changes in the body of knowledge outline. Leadership skills approach, leadership situational approach. That specifically relates to a text by Peter Newhouse, the most frequently used text on leadership training in management programs throughout the world. Now in its 8th edition, 2019. Chapter 3 of that book focuses on skills approach. What kinds of skills are required? In some instances, the skills may be more of coaching persons or supporting persons that are on your team. But in other instances, it might need to be more direction giving. For example, if you're in an emergency situation. So the candidate is expected to be able to address what kinds of skills of leadership did that candidate need to call on. Or, looking at Chapter 5 for guidance of Peter Newhouse's text, how did that situation of that portfolio work sample that's being presented impact the way in which they would function as a leader? The leader is a person who guides a group of people who agree upon a set of goals on how to get there. So that text, Peter Newhouse, it is expected that candidates will be specifically referencing one or both of those chapters now in their executive skills portfolio. That also means that persons who are now executive skills portfolio evaluators will need to be trained in looking at those chapters. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about training for executive skills portfolio readers. Third, the implementation process. The new format for that portfolio is going to be required for all 2021 ESP submissions that will be due on February 17th, 2021. But recognizing that there are a number of candidates who are currently in process of finishing their route to becoming a CCAP and their route to the exam, while we're reconstructing that highway, we need traffic on it, that highway. So there's a process in place to enable those candidates who in a current program year did not reach that targeted required score of a 300-point minimum on their executive skills portfolio to qualify for the exam. And the due date for candidates in that position, if they expect or want to use the older method for writing a portfolio, must have that submitted by November 15th. Charles Mccann, who is a member of that ESP review committee, has also volunteered to offer a few reflections right now, specifically focused, though not exclusively as he wishes, on this implementation process. Charles, are you with us, and can you open your mic?
I think my mic is open. And good morning to all. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Paul. It's very, very nice to see you virtually. I'd rather see you in person, but if I can't see you in person, seeing you virtually is much better than not seeing you at all. And I appreciate very much you being at this CCAP event. I think that one thing to know is this really does affect you. As you know, the last ethic talks about supporting the professional development of our colleagues, especially those seeking to become certified community action professionals. This means that people in your agency going through the CCAP process will be using a different body of knowledge and a different set of requirements and guidelines for the ESP. So it would not be a good thing for you not to know about these changes and help the people coming up through your agency by helping them prepare and talking about with them an ESP using the old requirements and guidelines. The new ones are substantially different. So this does affect you. As Jim said, all new ESPs, we're going to implement it right away. The ESPs that come in February will need to use the new format. There are about 25 candidates who were in the category that Jim mentioned. They're in the process. They had submitted an ESP, and the ESP submitted did not achieve the 300 points. And they will be given a chance to do whichever one they wanted. I've contacted all 25, and of those, only one prefers to start fresh and use the new format. The rest are going to try to do things on their ESP they submitted, change it, amend it, adjust it, whatever, in order to achieve at least 300 points. They were also offered a consultation with me to see if we could have a conversation about the ESP and determine ways that they might be able to increase their scores. And those meetings will start next week. So for almost everyone new in the pipeline, February 17th. For those about 25, not quite, they will have the option November 15th, and most all of them have selected that option. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, Jim, we're ready to move on then. I assume that's so. All right, we wanted to somebody go forward the slide.
Lauren, could you move to the next slide, please?
We lose you, Jim?
Must.
Must have. Well, I know
It's
what next.
audio.
I want to tell you about some of the new things that the CCAP Commission has been working on. We've been looking at some different possibilities how to expand the program and improve the program. We, at one point, were even looking at thinking about certification program for board of directors. The real interest in expanding the number of CCAPs that we have throughout the network to provide that professional management in community action. The fact that we do have a lot of folks retiring out of the community action world and new folks coming in. So we appointed an expansion committee, and that is being led by Jeannie Chafin. And Jeannie, is your mic on?
It is. Can you hear me, Paul?
Sure can. I'm gonna
Great.
turn
Good
it over to
morning.
you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. This is great to see CCAPs on a Monday morning. What better way to start the week than with a bunch of CCAPs joined together talking about our future? It's so exciting to be with you today, and exciting to chat a little bit with you this morning about the Commission's commitment to expanding the number of CCAPs across the country. With this new class that we just certified, we have just under probably 800 active CCAPs, and those CCAPs are spread across 230 community action agencies. And if you recall, we have about 1,000 community action agencies in our wonderful network and our movement. And so we have a lot of community action agencies where there is not a CCAP. And so the commission is starting to, through the committee that Paul mentioned, chat a little bit with how can we increase the number of CCAPs, and especially at places where there is not a CCAP. So we have a committee, and we're planning some activities over the next couple of months. I'm happy to sort of say here today that Mary Beth and her colleagues at NASCAS are going to co-host a webinar on September 9th for states and state associations. And the commission and the partnership are going to join with NASCAS and just have a webinar to talk directly to state CSBG directors and state association leaders about how they might be able to support the certified community action professional, how they might be able to, in this time where we are really busy, but we do have some additional resources, how we might be able to support some additional study groups and really help folks think about their professional development and their future, which some of us think is really, even though we're in the midst of a pandemic, it's a good time to talk to people and support them in their professional development, because, we're all really challenged right now. And so taking a little bit of time for ourselves and to think about our own future is really important. So we're going to do that webinar. We're also going to do a national webinar to sort of talk about the value at CCAP. And then we'll have some other creative things that we'll work with all of you on. But you that are CCAPs are really important to this process. And Jim will talk to you about our Each One project, where we ask a CCAP to mentor an upcoming candidate. And what the expansion committee would like to ask you today is try to identify a potential candidate that you can mentor in a place where that agency does not have a CCAP. So I mentioned we have a lot of agencies where there is not a CCAP. When you're thinking about mentoring, try to find an agency in your don't have a CCAP, so we can expand CCAPs into new agencies, and work on recruiting and mentoring people into your state study group or into your mentoring cohort, folks who come from agencies that maybe CCAP is new, or they've not really pursued the Certified Community Action Professional. So we have a great committee. Tiffany, Leah, Charles, many people who are on the call today, other commissioners are part of this committee, and we'll be talking with all of you more. But think about who you can mentor this year, and specifically think about reaching out to agencies where there's not a CCAP. So Paul, I think that's all we had to share this morning. And I just encourage everybody to mentor and think about helping on professional development, because we're all in a really challenging time, and supporting each other and helping each other in the future is really important. Thanks a lot, Paul.
Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you very much. And they are working hard. Our CCAPs that we have, especially with trying to get them in more agencies across the country. And we need everybody's help in making that happen. The other thing I wanted to let you know is that we're still having some discussion on potential of what I call CCAP Plus. Or it's,
back on, Paul. Can you hear me well?
Oh, you're back on, Jim. Yes, now I can hear you, Jim.
Yes.
Let me finish up and I'll turn this right back to you. I call it a CCAP Plus, but it's with CCAPs having especially in standards of excellence. But due to some staff changes at the partnership and COVID-19, it's got on a slow run at this point. So, but there's still something to look forward in the future, I hope. Okay, Jim.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Sorry, everyone. I was connecting with you using my phone that Bluetooth connects to my hearing aids, and the call got dropped. So anyhow, I'm back on now using these headphones. Can you hear me okay, Paul?
Yep, sure can.
Okay, good. I just want to remind everyone that body of knowledge outline change and candidate data form change and the new executive skills portfolio guidelines will be posted on the partnership website after the convention, and also to let you know that we will be connecting with those of you who are executive skills portfolio evaluators to assist you in making that adjustment to evaluating portfolios with those changes. Okay. And Paul, and thank you, Jeannie, for cluing us into what our hopes for CCAP are in the future. I'm sorry not to be able to have been there right at the very beginning. Now, looking at the CCAPs recertified in 2020, I will show you the list of the names of the 89 persons who have so far completed the process of recertifying as CCAPs, understanding that as we go along during the course of the year, there will probably be more of them. What happens each year is that CCAPs are informed, as you know, in January of the year, letting you know that the 4-year window closes on July 31st of the current window, the current year, in order to recertify as a CCAP. Now, normally we would be calling out all those names of those persons who went through that process at the luncheon. We can't do that this year, so certificates and pins will be sent to all the persons whose names you see scrolling along here. And each of them, many of them have been contacted during the course of the past few months that they hadn't responded by June. Charles Mccann has been calling around to find out where everybody is. What happens is during the course of those few years, we can lose track of people. Some CCAPs might move to another agency or get a new job or move out of community action, but they don't contact the partnership office. So we don't know where you've moved to. So every year, Charles does a lot of sleuthing to find out where everybody's gone to. But we track people down and find out that persons who have been CCAPs really do recertify unless they've left community action or retired. but we still do our best to keep in touch. But we do ask, if you do have a move, if your agency email address changes, anything like that, we only get a chance to contact you directly infrequently. So please inform the partnership office. Some interesting stats and facts about those who recertified this year. These 89 recertified CCAPs are from the 6 CCAP groups of 1996, 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, and 2016. You come from 26 states and from all 10 federal regions. In this group, there are 7 states that have 5 or more CCAPs being recertified this year. Oklahoma and South Carolina have 5 each. Minnesota and New York have 7 each. Indiana has 8. Kentucky has 9. I guess you guessed it. The largest group is from Missouri with 11. The National Community Action Partnership is represented. State associations in Connecticut, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, and West Virginia are represented, as is the State Office of Economic Opportunity in Michigan. Congratulations to the CCAPs who recertified in 2020. And now, before I give it back to Paul, we have our annual ask. As you know, the CCAP program, one of the strengths of the CCAP program is that it is peer run. And so much of the program, whether it's supporting candidates or whether it is evaluating candidates, so much of the program relies upon the expertise of CCAPs in the network. If you want to be a mentor for new CCAPs, please make sure you look at your program and sign up for the session that Charles will be leading this Thursday to train CCAP mentors. If you can't make that training session, there will be other opportunities for you to train as a mentor. If you would like to be an evaluator for candidate data forms or executive skills portfolio, that process of training evaluators is done by document exchanges via the net. And that will be done for those of you who want to be evaluators who are new this year. And we will be doing a process of retooling ESP evaluators for the new format by this same method. We can always use the assistance for exam question field testing. CCAP exam questions don't show up on that exam unless they're rigorously field tested for both validity and reliability as questions. It's a long and arduous process, but it requires persons to assist us simply by answering the questions and giving your feedback. We will again need exam proctors in 2021 by whatever process the commission, with the advice of the CCAP exam committee, comes up with. And of course, there's always the need for CCAPs to share your enthusiasm with your state association at state association or regional meetings. So we have a series of webinar slides that we can send to you to help you in finding a way to organize your thoughts and be skillful in talking about CCAP and promoting it at various meetings. But the most valuable contact is person to person. And as Jeannie mentioned, we will have once again the each one reach one opportunity, where we will ask you to suggest persons who could be, you think, good candidates for CCAP, either in your agency, but especially if you know someone in a neighboring community, in a neighboring agency where there is not a CCAP. We want to know about them. We want to reach out to them. You will find an opportunity to access SurveyMonkey immediately after this caucus. You will find the link in the chat box, and it'll also be in materials, linkaged materials for your platform for the convention. And there will be a message sent to all CCAPs reminding for you to indicate your opportunity to volunteer for one of those positions. Thank you, and I'm going to turn this back to Paul for closing and finishing and engaging us in conversation. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Jim, and hope you've all gotten a lot of information out of today's presentation. I do want to follow up, but Tom did finally get on. He sent me a good message. I hope he's still on. And I told him I'd give
Can you hear me, Paul?
Yes, sure can.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, great. Hey, thanks again. I really appreciate just a few minutes, or not a few minutes, just 1 minute. I can squeeze everything into 1 minute, and just want to thank Paul and my fellow commissioners for the experience of a lifetime. It was something that kind of defies expression to help serve on a body that helped promote the vision, values, and philosophy of community action amongst a national network. And I've been particularly pleased in the years that I was on the partnership board as well as on the commission to see this expanded and increased interest in CCAP. So those of you who have become CCAPs this summer, as well as those before, congratulations to all of you. I want to just encourage you to take heed to Jim and Jeannie's comments that you are the best advocate and the best salesperson for CCAP. Even though my time on the commission is coming to a close, I'm still going to be very supportive of CCAP. Disaster ravaged California has really called my attention to really focus in on the efforts here. But I'll still be reading ESPs and doing more to support, as well as try to increase the number of CCAPs in the state. And so I want to encourage you to do the same thing. CCAP-led organizations, and I can truthfully say this, are better organizations. Ask yourself, why did you become a CCAP? I know what I did. Back in the inaugural year of 1993, many people know that I worked alongside of and with Lois Carson, one of the initial commissioners of the CCAP Commission and the program. And it was watching her and how she led our organization that led me to really want to commit to being a better professional, a better member of our community action network. And so I just want to encourage all of you guys to again, be the best salesperson that you can be for the program. And I want to wish all of you well. Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you, Tom. And I want to thank Tom and all the commissioners for all the hard work that you've done on the commission. As I keep saying, it's probably the hardest working group of people that I work with on the CCAP Commission, because between having to developing the test, exercising the test, grading, and monitoring the program, it takes a lot of work and takes folks committed to the CCAP and to the community action movement to make it work. And I want to take a moment of silence for a recent CCAP chair, who was also a partnership board member, longtime CCAP, and she was always taking care of everybody, making sure they were able to do what they needed to do. When I was the national chair, she always tried to protect me because I would like to have a beer with my dinner at the banquets. And she made me always either put it in a glass or sit it down beside me, because she said it wasn't right to have that beer bottle sit up there at the head table. So that's part of the reason why I figured I better put the coat and tie on today, because she'd be up there telling me that's the way I'm supposed to act. So, but let's take a moment of silence for Karen Lewig, who just passed recently. Again, thank you for being with us today. Anything we're missing, Jim?
No, Paul, I think we've done it.
And we've got done before, we've got 9 minutes to spare. And appreciate everybody being with us today. And you know your job. It's been lined out for you. Go recruit CCAP.
Thank you.
Alexa, I assume I have to sign off of this board meeting, right?
That's correct.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the board meeting.